Okay, so I think I'm going to start off with the story of when I met the acclaimed filmmaker Robert Rodriguez on my 30th birthday, because it's a pretty awesome story, and I think it's also a good contrast to another similar experience that I might talk about in a future episode. But the story goes like this. Basically, at the time, this was around April 2023, around the time of CinemaCon 2023, which was in Las Vegas, and I'm working at Joe Blow. And usually every year when CinemaCon happens, we send a couple of people there. They get to see all the new stuff, the trailers, the movies, the teasers. And then people like me, the editors, just get basically a long-winded video describing everything that took place at CinemaCon. And then I have to edit it into an entertaining video. And that usually, during that time, that requires quick turnarounds and a lot of late nights. I don't know how much any of you care about the deadlines behind running a YouTube channel. But the long and short of it is I was kind of pulling some overtime, working a lot of like overnight weird, swing shifts. And my birthday was coming up, and kind of as a reward for the OT that I pulled during CinemaCon, even though I got paid for it, they agreed to send me as a representative for the company to the premiere for Robert Rodriguez's new movie at the time, Hypnotic, starring Ben Affleck. I was kind of known at the time around the channel for being a little bit of a Robert Rodriguez fanboy, I guess. I'm a big fan of his movies. His book really inspired me. And in my own filmmaking career, I think a lot of people go through this. You just relate to the people that did it with the least amount of help. So nevertheless, I was extremely excited about this. So the plan was that Robert Rodriguez's movie studio, Troublemaker Studios, which is based in Austin, Texas, they were going to fly me out there, put me up in a hotel in downtown Austin, and basically give me the weekend to tour the entire movie studio, meet Robert Rodriguez, see the new film, meet the crew. And, hopefully the goal would have been to make some good content out of the experience. It's good for the company, but it's good stuff for the internet, So I had maybe less than 2 days to get everything worked out. I had to get in touch with the movie studio. I had to send them my flight details. I had to send them dietary restrictions, anything that they might need to know. Because they were going to pay for essentially everything for me while I was there. So I let my wife know I'm going to Texas the day after my 30th birthday, or maybe the day of. I can't really remember now, but I had either just turned 30 the day before, or it was my 30th birthday. And I'm now being flown out to a movie studio for a director that I highly, highly admire. And I'm going to get to hang out at this movie studio and interviews and see the movie and kind of feel like I'm in the mix a little bit. Admittedly, I was nervous. I'm not one that's used to being, spur the moment when it comes to traveling. I typically like to have any travel well in advance, pretty much ironed out, so that I don't have to think about it. It's kind of stressful. But the excitement for this entire experience kind of was worth it all. I mean, I didn't have too much stress. I kind of didn't care about the short notice because of where I was going and what I was going to be doing when I got there. So I was not fully prepared for how fun this trip was going to be, only because I also had never traveled for work before, and I wasn't sure kind of what the parameters or typical experiences are for these types of things. I didn't know if it was going to be very formal and there would be, minimal time to really get to know anybody. I didn't know what the tour would be like, or if it was just going to be kind of a guided thing where I stand in the sun for 2 hours. I just didn't know, but I was so excited, just in anticipation. So I get to Texas, which was a pretty easy flight, not too long. I think I might have just kind of zoned out, put on a movie maybe and zoned out. And when I get there, I get I turn my phone on and I get instructions from a random phone number saying, when you get off the plane, go to this place near this baggage claim. There's going to be somebody with a sign, and that sign is going to have your name on it, and that's your driver, and that person is going to take you to your hotel. Keep in mind, I've been in this business a long time, but I'm not usually the person that gets to go meet these people or go to these events. I'm usually the guy who makes content out of those events, which is kind of sad, but I was so excited and I just felt so official. So I'm walking, I see the guy. It's exactly like you would expect from the movies. It's a dude in a black suit and he's got a sign, and it was like a digital, almost like an iPad. but it had my name on it. So the guy takes me to this really swanky, black tinted windows Lincoln or something like that. The drive to the hotel took a while from the airport, but I remember looking around and thinking I had never been to Austin before. And I remember thinking about how unique it is. It just didn't look like what I expected, but it did look like a fun place to explore. And this is around the time that the driver starts asking me questions about what I do. And I've always had this funny kind of like complex trying to explain to people what I do in the most like efficient way. I don't like to say YouTuber because that would imply that, that I'm an independent, completely on my own commentary YouTuber or something like that, which it's not really what I do. But I also kind of can't call myself a film critic because in doing that, you kind of open yourself up to, I don't know, the different tiers of film critics that people might take you as. So it is kind of a weird thing. So normally what I tell people I do is I just say that I make videos for a movie company, which I guess is the quickest, easiest, and simplest way to describe it. It also detaches me from having any follow-up questions for the most part. Well, I don't want to get too much into this part of it, but the driver was a fan of Joe Blow, which of course is the channel that I work at and help run. And so that was pretty cool. We talked movies. He asked me about some of like the videos on our channel, some of them, of which I had nothing to do with. And it was cool, but it already kind of felt like I was being treated like some celebrity, right? And I haven't even got to the hotel yet. So by the time we do get to the hotel, and I don't remember the name of it, but it was this very, very modern, exciting hotel in downtown Austin. Very cool place. But I get there and they check me in, and at the check-in, they're giving me local Texas beer to take up to my room with me, which, I mean, if you've ever gone to a hotel before, usually the check-in process is quite fast and simple. You say your name, they pull up your reservation, they give you the key, you go to your room, you jerk off, you do whatever. But in this case, they were giving me gifts and escorting me with my bags to the room. That also kind of made me feel very excited, the fact that they knew who I was and that they were already giving me stuff. Now, granted, movie studios do things like this. This is part of their marketing campaign. It's built into their budget. And for an independent filmmaker like Robert Rodriguez, who owns his own studio, this was actually his entire marketing campaign. So I found out when I got there, I'm getting all this incredible special treatment, that basically Rodriguez had hired like 7 various influencers from the internet to come watch his movie and then use us as maybe his conduit to promote the movie. Financially, the movie did not do very well. Critically, it didn't do very well either. So I don't know what that says about the marketing strategy, but we were all very excited to be there. And I think we were all very excited to help contribute to the project. But when I got there, I get to my room. I've already been given some local beer, like a sampler pack of local Texas beer. I had a driver who was very nice and a fan that felt kind of cool. They kept calling me by my last name, which I thought was interesting as well. And then I get in the room, and on my bed, there's a gift from Robert Rodriguez or Troublemaker Studios. And it's a camera with a note and some memorabilia from the movie. I have like a signed poster, a few other like tchotchkes, and a camera. And this was kind of the moment where for me, I'm alone in my hotel room now. The traveling part of it is over for now. And so this is kind of my first period of reflection. And I'm looking back at the last couple of days since this offer came through or since I got this opportunity. And I'm thinking, wow, this could hopefully be the start of the next chapter. And it's only the first day. I haven't even gotten to the movie studio, But it was fun. So I had some time in my hotel room to take a shower and change. And I think I maybe responded to a couple of emails, but then I immediately get a text from the same number that texted me the instructions about my driver. And it said that myself and the other influencers are meeting down in the lobby in like 15 minutes. So I quickly, put some product in my hair or whatever, make myself presentable. I head downstairs. And when I get down there, I noticed that one, they hired exclusively known TikTokers, not just like, known internet personalities that have TikTok. We're talking like TikTokers exclusive. And then there was me, who at the time I was not on TikTok. I was, just doing YouTube. So I already felt a little bit weird, a little bit out of place. But it also seemed that I was the only person there representing a company and everybody else there was an independent creator. My treatment was a little bit different. I almost got treated as if I was part of the marketing team for Rodriguez as opposed to, an influencer there like everybody else. And, there was benefits to that and also some drawbacks, which we'll definitely talk about. So we meet in the lobby, we have some food and some beer. And the way that these things usually work is you get to meet the representatives of whatever movie studio is paying for this stuff. So there was like 3 ambassadors for the company that showed up, and they were all super nice. And I don't really remember how. I might have mentioned that it was my 30th birthday. That seems like something I probably would have done to try to get as much attention out of this experience as I could have. But either way, it did get brought up, and the plan was initially we were going to eat, have some drinks, go to the movie studio and watch the movie, and then go to some nice swanky dinner. But they find out it's my birthday. Nobody made a big deal out of it. It just kind of came up. So we go to the movie studio. The first night at the studio, we just watched the film. So the plan was we were going to watch the film on the first night, and then the next day we would go back to the movie studio, tour the studio, see the workshop. This is the same studio where they filmed, Alita Battle Angel and the Spy Kids films and Sin City and some episodes of The Mandalorian. So it's a big movie studio, like a big back lot with tons of sets and props and cars and, warehouses. It's crazy. But the first night we're just there to see the movie. So, we go in, we see the movie, and admittedly, I think the experience of going to see the movie at the studio it was made in, and Robert Rodriguez was there. He watched the movie with us, kind of said a few words. We watched it in his private theater. I think that definitely is designed to help sway our opinion as critics of the movie and its quality. And maybe I'm blind to it, but I still think that it's a pretty good movie. I still think it's enjoyable. I have my favorite Robert Rodriguez movies. Hypnotic isn't one of them, but it was good, and I did enjoy it. So after the movie, it's late at this point. There's this really nice steakhouse in Austin, and they rented out like an executive room there or something, some private room. So we get there. It's me, a bunch of influencers. Some of them you might know. I knew who some of them were, and I've since become friends with some of these people. But we're all sitting at dinner, so it's maybe me and 7 other influencers, maybe 6 other influencers, and then there's 4 people from the movie studio that are there. There's the PR person, head of marketing, I don't know. Well, I mentioned earlier that it came up, it was my birthday, and this is where it all comes, full circle. So I was at the time not blending in. I mean, I was blending in, but I was kind of just, invisible to everybody. Not for any reason other than I'm not typically a very loud, attention commanding person in social situations if it's just not appropriate, And so I had been kind of a wallflower up to this point, but I had kind of been greasing some palms with some of these movie studio people, just trying to, make connections, anything. That's kind of how that's part of this business. And I'm sitting there. They paid for this incredible meal. It was one of those things that was so fancy you don't even order. They just bring you what the chef made for you. And it was good. No complaints out of me. But then they come out with this big birthday sampler. There's like 3 pieces of cake. There's like a cheesecake on it, just enough to feed the whole table, right? And they're singing happy birthday. They wrote my name in like chocolate mousse. It was crazy. The level of preparation that it looked like there would have had to have been, it was just crazy. So then the attention kind of shifts to me, and then everybody's celebrating me, which is an interesting feeling because when it's your birthday, maybe your friends and family might celebrate you, or your friends and family might I don't know, sing to you and give all their attention and affection to you. But this was a room full of strangers who didn't know me, 5 hours before this. So everybody was very nice, but obviously there's not a lot of connection there between anybody yet. So I really just appreciated the experience. But out of that, I did come out of my shell a bit. I made a few friends, a few TikTok friends, things that, I don't know, things that it took years. But when I started TikTok, I was like at least I know some people on here that can help get me started. It was great. But after dinner, everybody else, I think, went out for drinks. Me and a couple of the other influencers, my buddy Chris, we were all tired, so we just went back to the hotel. And I just went to my room and fell asleep. Kind of, I don't know, I kind of felt like I was riding this high, like just the last 24 hours, I felt like a celebrity. And they kept referring to us, the influencers, as the talent, which felt kind of good. It felt like we were at this event that was where we were the guests of honor. And typically in my career, you know, nobody watches a great video on YouTube and wonders who edited that video unless they're into editing. And this felt like everything else that I do was finally getting me somewhere and something. So I go to sleep kind of feeling this high. The next morning I wake up, I feel really good. I got a lot of sleep. I had a really good dinner the night before. I just woke up feeling very fresh and ready to go and excited. So then we get on this like shuttle that takes us to the movie studio, and we were there the night before for the movie, but it was dark and it was late. So this, you know, second time pulling up to the front of it was insane, seeing how massive this warehouse. So the warehouse itself, or the movie studio itself, used to be a private jet hangar. Like it was like a small airport, you know, essentially. And Rodriguez bought it long time ago, turned it into his movie studio. It's got all the room he needs to make his movies. And the cool thing, we took the tour pretty much right away. And the cool thing is you see how fully independent and how fully operational this guy's movie studio is. I mean, he doesn't need anybody. Everything he needs can be done in-house. He's got a VFX house. He's got a trailer house. He's got practical effects. He's got spots to build sets. He's got full cities, full downtown, you know, cross streets built in the back that he can use, and a fleet of cars for different things, from like Sin City cars that are super stylized to just regular old cars you could park in the back of your shot. It's a very self-sustainable movie studio. And pulling up as a movie fan and as a fan of the movies that were made there, I just had this euphoric, like, I think the best way to describe it is like that feeling you get when you're about to go down the steepest part of a roller coaster, when it's kind of slowly ticking up before it drops. But then that feeling after you drop of just weightlessness, you know, pure excitement. That's what I felt. They also fed us. Turns out Robert Rodriguez owns a really, really good, authentic taco spot in Austin. And I can't remember the name, so apologies for that. But it was delicious food. But we ate. We hung out in like the main like corridor, which was also really cool. There's props from all of his movies. We got to see, like, I saw the Spy Kids 3D suits, which, you know, as a 31-year-old man, that movie was kind of, when I was a kid, was kind of a big deal. And those suits were kind of iconic, you know, to people my age. So, you know, things like that, are seeing like the life-size Alita constructed in real life, the model, you know, or the, you know, any whatever you wanted, the guitar for mariachi, it's all there. And it was so cool. The tour, there's a video online that I made out of all of this. I kind of vlogged the whole experience, so I'll put that link in the description if you guys want to see the trip that I'm talking about. But the tour was incredible. So far, I'm thinking, if this is what my 30s is starting like, I'm here for it. I'm so excited. And then I got to interview Robert Rodriguez and his sons, two of them at least. I think it was Max and Rebel were the two that I got to interview with Robert about the new movie. And one of his sons had done the score, and the other one was a producer on the film. And that, you know, again, with an in-house movie studio, it's also family run. So this guy is doing what every filmmaker wishes they could do. He's just working with people he knows and likes and trusts, and doesn't have to ask the studio for anything. You know, even if his movies get financing or distribution from somewhere, you know, like Netflix or whatever the case is, he's got full creative control. He is the studio producing these movies. And I think that seeing that he's also making these movies with his family, I don't know, it was just an extra layer of excitement and inspiration for me. Now, I had never really interviewed somebody I admired like this before. I had admired a few famous people or plenty of people in the industry, but nobody that I truly like looked up to for the answers to the universe like I do with this guy. And I gotta say, I had this whole interview planned out in my head. I wrote all these questions about the movie, about him, about his career. They tell me, you're gonna be in there. You got, I think it was 5 minutes or 7 minutes or something like that. And they said, and we're gonna tell you when it's time to wrap, and you got to wrap it up and get out of there quick. So this is when it got formal. This is where, so far I had been treated like a celebrity. I had just been in this incredible movie studio. I'm walking on the set of Alita Battle Angel, taking photos. I took a selfie in the downtown area that they filmed one of the Mandalorian episodes. And it's just, it's nuts. And then they tell me, but when you meet Robert, make it quick. You've got 7 minutes. And then they also asked me to try to avoid any questions that aren't about this specific movie that I was there to cover, which was Hypnotic. Now that felt like a blow because, I'm getting to meet my hero, and I want to talk to him about so many things that made him my hero. And a lot of those things had nothing to do with his latest movie. So I go to do the interview and I'm incredibly nervous to be sitting 5 feet across from somebody that I consider, an involuntary mentor. I read this guy's book and just loved it. And as soon as I start talking to him, this guy makes me feel incredibly comfortable. He's very sweet. He's very soft-spoken, but he's also, you can tell, very happy to talk about his movie and genuinely excited to get into some of that stuff. So what I did was I ended up not looking at any of my notes, and I just went for conversation over questions. Instead of just interviewing and moving on after he answers, I just kind of kept it like a 7-minute talk about movies in general, about his movie, about Ben Affleck in his movie, about some of his experiences on other movies. And I found a way to make it relevant to Hypnotic while still, feeling like I got to have a real conversation with a real hero of mine. And I felt very proud of myself in that moment, because when I walked off of that, they told me to rap. This was the cool thing too. They told me to rap and Rodriguez just kept going. He ignored them, and he's allowed to do that. This is his, he's running the show. He's signing those checks. So we did go over time. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of going overtime, going over my limit. And I didn't take away from anybody else that was there. I was one of the first interviews, which I was lucky for, but we were there all day and there was not that many of us. So everybody got a chance to talk. I'm sure he went over with other people as well. And it was amazing. And so after I leave the studio that day, they send me a car and I go back to the hotel. I pack and I fly home. And on the way back home, I have all of this footage of the experience. I've got just, B-roll of the set, of the people, of the crew, the VFX workshop, tons of stuff. And then I get an email, of kind of the, expectations that the studio has on what I can and cannot show in my video, because admittedly, the VFX workshop did have some stuff for movies that are still not out or announced yet. And to see those things that early would have only ruined whatever progress was already made. So I get that. But I was able to churn out a pretty good video. But I was so excited with all of this footage and just the experience as a whole that I started editing the video on the plane. Maybe even in the airport waiting to get on the plane. I think I might have started real early. I just got on my laptop and started editing. And while I was editing, it was nice. It was like kind of the perfect way for me to cathartically close out that epic weekend, that great experience, and reset myself to be ready to get home and just go back to work as if nothing happened. Because sometimes that's what you have to do. And in my career, I still have to do that. I have to have larger than life moments followed by completely normal 9-to-5 moments. And you gotta be ready to adapt to both. Robert Rodriguez is a legend. This guy made one of my favorite films of all time is The Faculty, and that's one you've probably heard either here on the channel or on TikTok. I've talked about it. I think it's pretty much a perfect movie. It's kind of Invasion of the Body Snatchers for the 90s, and that might actually be the perfect description for it. And I love it. And he also made Spy Kids. Some of those movies are very important to me, even still, and then of course, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, Mariachi, Desperado, Alita Battle Angel, this, Robert Rodriguez, Sin City. I could go on. He's made some great movies. He's made some duds as well, but who cares? I look at this guy and I go, he's doing it his way. If he's got a couple duds, but ultimately he doesn't have to ask anybody for shit, he can just make whatever he wants, then welcome the duds, because it makes the stuff that is good even better. And so that's the story of when I met Robert Rodriguez on my 30th birthday, or at least very near my 30th birthday. The important thing to mention is that this was an incredible trip. This was the best case scenario for a work trip. I made friends. I was treated well, very well. I was paid for my time. I was sent home with a camera and a bunch of souvenirs. I got to meet one of my heroes. It could not have gone better. But if you guys want, in the next episode, I will get into probably the worst business trip I've ever been on. It's a very sharp contrast to this one. So if you guys are interested in that, so let me know if you guys are interested in seeing that. And thank you for listening to this episode of Midnight Mecca. And I will see you guys in the next one. Good night.